Cold Trail Files, Episode 1. The Road Home, The Disappearance of Jason Landry. On the night of December 13th, 2020, a 21-year-old college student left his apartment in San Marcos, Texas, to drive home to his family for Christmas. He never made it. His car was found crashed on a dark rural road just outside the small town of Luling. The lights were still on, the keys were still in the ignition, but Jason Landry was gone. And scattered along the road near the wreckage were his clothes, his shirt, his shorts, his socks, his underwear, his sandals, and even his watch. As if he had undressed in the middle of nowhere and walked into the darkness. More than 5 years later, Jason Landry has never been found. No body, no remains, no confirmed sighting, nothing. This is Cold Trail Files, and this is the road home. Jason Landry was a student at Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. He was 21 years old, just over 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. He had just finished his first semester at Texas State, where he was working toward acceptance into the university's prestigious sound recording technology program. By all accounts, Jason was a bright, ambitious young man who loved music. His father, Kent Landry, is a pastor at Southminster Presbyterian Church in Missouri City, Texas, just outside of Houston. The family was close, and Jason was heading home for Christmas break, just like thousands of other college students across the state that weekend. There was nothing unusual about that night, nothing that suggested what was about to happen. Here is the timeline as pieced together by Caldwell County Sheriff's Office using data from Jason's phone and computer. At 10:55 p.m. on December 13th, Jason leaves his apartment in San Marcos. He gets in his Nissan Altima and begins the 2 to 3 hour drive south to Missouri City. At 11:05, he's driving on Highway 80, passing under Interstate 35 in San Marcos. By 11:07, he has crossed into Caldwell County, still heading south on Highway 80. 11:11, he passes through Martindale. 11:15, he crosses over State Highway 130. Between 11:17 and 11:21, he passes through the small communities of Fentress, Prairieville, and Stairtown. Small Texas towns, dark roads, not much out there. At 11:24, Jason enters the city of Luling on Highway 80, and here something changes. Investigators say at the intersection where Highway 80 becomes Austin Street, Jason stopped using the Waze navigation app and opened Snapchat. Why he switched apps at that moment, no one knows. But shortly after this, his digital footprint goes silent. Authorities believe that sometime between 11:30 and 11:34, Jason deviated from his planned route. At the intersection at Magnolia Avenue, instead of continuing on the main road, he drove straight through, heading toward Salt Flat Road. Salt Flat Road is a rural gravel road, dark, isolated, not on any route home to Missouri City. There is no logical reason for Jason to have been on this road, and that is where his car crashed. At 12:31 a.m. on December 14th, a volunteer firefighter driving by spotted Jason's Nissan Altima wrecked and abandoned in the 2300 block on Salt Flat Road. The car's headlights were still on, the keys were still in the ignition, the front passenger door was locked, but Jason was not there. Investigators believe he overcorrected on the gravel road and spun out of control. There was no evidence of a second vehicle involved, no paint transfer from another car, no signs of a collision with anything other than the terrain. When Texas Department of Public Safety troopers arrived about an hour later to investigate, they found Jason's backpack roughly 900 feet from the crash. Near it was a ball cap, toiletries, and a tumbler with a dead fish inside. Inside the backpack, they found a laptop, gaming equipment, and a small amount of marijuana. But the truly disturbing discovery came later that morning. Around 5:30 a.m., Jason's father, Kent, arrived at the impound yard where the car had been towed. He found Jason's phone still inside the vehicle. Kent then drove back to the crash scene on Salt Flat Road, and there, in the roadway, approximately 900 feet from the crash, he found his son's clothing. Jason's shirt, the same shirt he was wearing in the last known photo taken of him that night. His shorts, which had visible bloodstains. His socks, his underwear, his sandals, his wristwatch. All of it scattered on the road, as if Jason had removed every piece of clothing he was wearing and walked away naked into the surrounding terrain. The car was processed for DNA and blood evidence. No blood was found inside the vehicle. There was no evidence that Jason had been heading to Luling to meet anyone. His phone records and computer data gave no indication of plans to go anywhere other than home. The Caldwell County Sheriff's Office launched a search immediately. Drones, a helicopter with infrared cameras, search dogs, side scan sonar on nearby bodies of water. Volunteers from the nonprofit organization Texas EquiSearch joined the effort. Hundreds of hours of security camera footage from in and around Luling were reviewed. None of it captured Jason after the crash. After several days without finding any trace of Jason, Texas EquiSearch suspended its active search. The sheriff's office clarified early on that Jason's family were fully cooperative. They were not suspects. They were not persons of interest. And at that point, there was no evidence that any unknown person of interest was involved in the incident. But here is the problem that has haunted investigators from the beginning. There is no evidence that a crime occurred, but there's also no evidence that it didn't. Jason simply vanished. Over the past 5 years, three main theories have emerged. The first is accidental death, possibly linked to hypothermia. On the night Jason disappeared, temperatures in the Luling area dropped into the 30s. There is a documented medical phenomena called paradoxical undressing, where people suffering from severe hypothermia experience a sudden sensation of extreme heat. Their confused brain tells them they are burning up, so they strip off their clothes. If Jason was injured in the crash, disoriented, possibly concussed, and wandering in freezing temperatures, paradoxical undressing could explain the scattered clothing. In this scenario, Jason may have wandered into the surrounding fields or brush and succumbed to the elements. Unfortunately, his remains could have been consumed by wildlife. The area is home to feral hogs and other animals, or simply lost in the vast, largely unsearched terrain. The second theory is foul play. Some believe Jason may have encountered someone on Salt Flat Road, either before or after the crash. This theory points to the question of why Jason was on that road in the first place. If he was being chased by another vehicle, it could explain the sudden deviation from his route and the crash. But there is no physical evidence supporting this. No second set of tire tracks. No paint from another car. No witnesses. The third theory falls somewhere in between. The marijuana found in his backpack has led some to speculate that Jason may have had an adverse reaction or been in an altered mental state. This could explain both the deviation from his route and the removal of his clothing, but this remains speculation. Investigators at the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit, who took over the case in early 2022, have stated that they support the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office original conclusions. They have found no evidence of foul play, but they have also not found Jason. Jason Landry's case was one of the first investigated by the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit, which was created in 2021. The unit has dedicated hundreds of hours to the investigation. They conducted forensic testing. They issued search warrants. They interviewed dozens of witnesses. In November 2023, the unit hosted a roundtable review of the case with experts from the FBI, the Texas Rangers, Texas Search and Rescue, and specialists in digital forensics and geospatial sciences. The conclusion: all credible leads had been thoroughly pursued, and still nothing. Private investigator Coleman Ryan has been working with his own team to search for answers. He estimates they have conducted more than 30 searches over the past 5 years. As he put it, they know where Jason is not. A $20,000 reward remains available for any information about Jason's whereabouts. Every year since his disappearance, Jason's family and friends have gathered for a candlelight vigil near the crash site on Salt Flat Road. They pray for answers. They remember the young man who loved music and was just trying to get home for Christmas. His father, Kent, has said that part of his life is just stuck, waiting for those answers. Not knowing where his son is, not being able to grieve properly, not being able to find closure. Jason Landry was 21 years old, a college student, a musician, a son, a brother. He left his apartment on a Sunday night in December to drive home for the holidays. He made it as far as a dark gravel road on the edge of a small Texas town, and then he was gone. His clothes were left behind on that road. His phone was left in the car. His family was left waiting. More than 5 years later, the case remains open. The search continues, and the road home remains unfinished. If you have any information about the disappearance of Jason Landry, please contact the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit or the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office at 512-398-6777. This has been Cold Trail Files. If this case stayed with you, subscribe, share this video, and remember Jason's name, because some trails go cold, but they should never be forgotten.